Letter 3.
Dear friend, does any of your neighbors annoy you as much as one of mine does it to me? I can't stand him. He always parrots me back with everything I did, just as if he didn't have his own brains, opportunities, and his own ideas. What a donkey. Oh, okay. Now stop. Well, now I know how Claude Lorrain might have felt, extolled to the skies and looking at me, defiantly copying his divine works. Well, as you probably know, my dear friend, young artists at the beginning of their painting careers tend to copy works of primeval art masters. But you know, I was really ambitious and stupid at the same time, and I set forward a goal for myself: to deck and overwhelm one of the most remarkable artists of the 17th century, Claude Lorrain. I loved his works, but at the same time I hated them dearly. His talent was so big and so hard to beat, but I didn't want to give up. I wanted to be the best. I wanted other people to admire me and extol the skies so high that even in my lifetime I could kick Lorrain off his cloud over the Elysian fields. I worked really hard, and many times it involved tears of misery and hate. For example, one day as I was looking at Lorrain's beautiful port at sunset, and I just started to cry ruefully. When one collector asked why I was crying, I answered that it was because of that I would never be able to paint such a masterpiece. That was the painful truth I didn't want to come forward, and that was why I started to practice more and more. I produced a lot of Lorrains. During one of my travels, I decided to stay in Paris for longer. There, I made lots of sketches of Lorrain's work exhibited in Louvre. Looking at my painting, a layman might mistake them with Lorrain's one. Well, they were similar, even identical, but it still wasn't my goal. I didn't want to be equal. I wanted to be better. I worked painstakingly and finally I achieved success. Of course, critics' opinions were still divided, but despite this, I felt the flavor of victory. In May, I exhibited one of my landscapes inspired by Lorrain. Then in the article in the British Press magazine, John Brighton was dare to admit that I had beaten my master as far as richness is concerned and the form of rendering some of his motives. Other critics criticized my landscape because of their exaggerated pretension and insufficient precision. Some people couldn't accept innovation which I tried to implement into art. I tried to create new painting whose foundation would be poetry. I wanted to convince other artists, as well as critics, that in order to bring painting to life, creative freedom is necessary. Oh, that was exactly what I wanted to tell the people, but in fact I still indiscriminately copied everything that Lorrain had done. I even tried to publish my book called Liber Studiorum, which was supposed to be a type of landscape painting manual illustrated by my own drawings. I did it because I had to produce something that would eclipse this awful, masterful Lorrain's Liberum Veritatis. A vital confrontation took place between my amazing Dido building Carthage and Lorrain's The Embarkation of the Queen of Sheba. As you know, there could be only one winner. My friend John Ruskin, who was a respected critic and a writer, artist, and also a poet at the same time, and other critics voted for me. So the victory was mine. Claude Lorrain was defeated. I indulged in my victory, and consequently I required my paintings be always put in the National Gallery next to Lorrain's. In this way, all the visitors could admire my victory over the past landscape master.
My Napoleon of painting.
Miriam shouted ironically, genuinely amused.
So, that was your Austerlitz. Fortunately, you did not employ an army of some hopeless mercenaries to fight with you against your imaginary enemy. Brains of men seem to function in accordance with so predictable rules. I wonder if they all suffer from same complexes which push them to pretend to be Napoleons in their professions, skirmish with all competitors around fighting for a laurel wreath. Oh, my poor foolish William.
Miriam sighed and returned to her reading.
Now, when I'm thinking about all this, I feel like a fool or a brainless man. Maybe I outrun Lorrain with a technique. But come on, he was born in the 17th century. For 200 years, painting techniques and methods got the lead out. So it was ridiculous to compare his paintings with mine in this aspect. In every other respect, he was still better than me. Why? His works had depth. His works were like poetry and the gate to the world of dreams he created. All licks of paint were like notes, which all together made the music permeate the whole painting interior, just like Lorrain's magic. And I was stupid, trying to desperately copy something that I wasn't even able to understand. Humans learn from mistakes. And, sadly, I made a lot of them. Fortunately, we always have a second chance to make a fresh start and become better. Life is hard, tough and ruthless. But even if your house is ablaze, always remember to have time for one cider with friends in a nearby inn. All the best. William Turner. P.S. Dear Mrs. Romerson, knowing that you're reading this letter, I give you my respects and wish you a great afternoon.
Miriam was sitting still, looking at the signature under the letter. Her eyes, usually luminous and playfully sparkling, seemed now very concentrated, as if she wanted to decode the actual meaning of these two words, William Turner, or maybe to find the real meaning of the dashes and arches which made up the subscription.
Yes, you are a fool, William,
said Miriam to the signature, which she constantly was looking at.
But I was much more of a fool, judging you so hastily. You are a riddle, William, but I do not think that such a smart aleck like me should make an attempt to solve it.
Miriam moved her eyes from the letter to the cat, who was licking his grey tail clean.
You know what, Giotto? For the first time, I'll be looking forward to receiving the next letter from Mr. Turner. And how about you?
But Giotto did not seem to await anything, except for absolute peace around him.